No tower, no rope, just a single drowned bell. Listen closely. Somewhere beneath black water, a sound waits to be heard, not in the world of the living, but deeper, colder. You can almost feel the pressure in your chest. That bell, hidden from every eye, rings without a tower, without a rope, just the deep, endless pull of the dark below. They say every toll claims a soul. Who first whispered it? Who was the first to count the bodies after that sound? Each echo swallowed up by water, carried away where light can't follow. A sound you feel in your bones before you ever hear it. Heavy, slow, ancient. Something in you wants to look away, but it's too late. You heard the bell, and these 12 sisters, 12, never rang it once. But the toll still came for them. 12 lives, silent as stones, lost without warning. Did they see the bell? Did they feel the cold brush of its voice on their skin? Or did they simply vanish, swept away on a night when the world turned its face from the river? No one built the tower. No one tied the rope. Yet the bell waits, just beneath the surface, patient as the grave. It doesn't care who remembers. It doesn't care who prays. All that matters is the toll. How many more will follow? How many souls does the water still want? Do you hear it now, just behind the silence? That trembling, distant note calling for someone new? One toll, 12 sisters, no rope, no tower, only a bell that refuses to die. Tell me, would you answer its call? If this mystery chills you, tell us your theory below, and don't forget to subscribe for the next dark chapter. October 1919. Fog so thick you could taste it in your mouth. The kind of night that makes every shape a shadow, every sound a warning. Somewhere out on the black Atlantic, a single steamship pushed through waves that looked like crawling ghosts. Its horn sounded, a low, broken cry, echoing off rocks and docks, making dogs shiver in their sleep. Fog Harbor wasn't a place for strangers, not in the dead hours, not with the moon hiding and the wind sharp enough to cut. The pier stood empty, lanterns swayed on rusty hooks, lighting nothing but the wet boards below. And then, from the smoke and mist, a ship's shape appeared, black and white, old, with peeling paint and silent windows. The whole town felt its presence. People pressed their faces to frosted glass, listening for anything out of place. 12 figures stepped onto the wood, slow and quiet, as if the fog was guiding their feet. Nuns, all of them, their habits dark as the water, faces swallowed by long black veils. Not one suitcase, not a single trunk or bag. Just hands folded, heads bowed, silent as shadows. The lanterns painted thin lines on the wet boards. The wind caught their veils, making them ripple like silent banners. Locals whispered afterward that the nuns' eyes flashed silver in the moonlight. No one could say for sure. No one wanted to stare too long. People remembered the sound. 12 sets of feet on soaked wood, boots that made no noise, only the ghostly roar of the ocean behind. No one spoke. Not the nuns. Not the few men on the dock. Not the driver of the wagon waiting at the end. The wagon was old, pulled by a single grey horse that pawed at the ground. Its breath steamed in the cold air. The nuns moved as one, no pushing, no rushing, as if they already knew where to go. One by one they climbed onto the back, the horse barely flinching. The driver never showed his face. He just flicked the reins and the wagon rolled away, wheels creaking, lanterns swaying in the dark. A town like Fog Harbor didn't get many visitors, especially not 12 nuns arriving at midnight. People talked for weeks about who they could be. Some said they were here to reopen St. Bridget's, the old stone convent left empty since the fever took half its sisters. Some said they were exiles, hiding from the world, running from a shadow that had followed them across the ocean. Others, more quietly, wondered if they were even real at all. Who comes to a place like this on a night when even the moon looks afraid? Who walks off a ship without baggage, without a word, without a face anyone can remember? The town watched from behind curtains, hearts thudding, prayers on their tongues. Somewhere a clock chimed the hour, somewhere a bell echoed, soft, muffled, like a memory lost underwater. There was something in the way they moved, too smooth, too sure, as if they'd made this journey before in another lifetime. The wind pressed at their backs, cold and salty, pushing them up the muddy road towards St. Bridget's. Not a single light burned in the windows of the convent. The building sat like a shadow on the hill, waiting, its stones slick with old rain, its doors closed tight. The nuns never looked back. The driver never turned around. The town never slept easy after that. Stories grew overnight. People claimed they heard voices in the fog, prayers whispered in languages no one knew. Someone swore they saw candlelight flickering in the chapel, though the windows were thick with grime. Children dared each other to run up the convent hill and knock on the door. None made it halfway before the air grew too heavy, the silence too thick. Mothers pulled them back, crossing themselves, muttering old words for protection. Even the fishermen kept their boats close to shore, eyes on the water, listening for bells that should not ring. Fog Harbour belonged to the storm, to the sea, to things that crept and vanished before dawn. But now the 12 nuns belonged to it too. They moved through the fog like it was part of them, fading into the darkness, leaving only questions behind. Why did they come? Why now? What were they running from or running toward? The old priest at St. Malachy's said nothing. The mayor sent no letters. The telegraph lines buzzed with rumours that went nowhere. The nuns had arrived, and with them, something had changed. A chill hung over the town. Doors were locked early. Windows watched the road. And somewhere, far off, the Atlantic kept roaring, pulling secrets under and washing memories away. Who were these women, wrapped in black, faces hidden, eyes catching moonlight like pieces of silver? No one knew, no one dared ask. But everyone felt it, the start of something dark. If this arrival unsettled you, tell us what you'd do if 12 strangers showed up in your town at midnight. Don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales. Inside the stone walls of St. Bridget's, time moved slow. Cold air crept beneath the doors, shadows stretched across the floor, thin and sharp as knives. Lanterns flickered, barely lighting the long, narrow hall. Each night, the same scene waited. 2 rows of beds, 42 in all. Iron frames, thin blankets, pillows flattened by old fears. But these beds weren't empty for long. The nuns brought them in, girls, small and pale, hair braided tight, eyes wide, but never meeting yours. They wore grey uniforms that fit no one right. Some had sleeves too long, some with hems dragging behind. Each girl moved with careful steps, afraid to make a sound. Look closer. Their lips are sealed, cloth tied tight around their mouths. No one speaks, no one dares. If you listen, you hear only breathing, ragged and low, sometimes shaking, sometimes almost silent. It's as if the air itself is afraid to carry a voice in this place. Each bed has a name tag, small, faded, pinned just above the sheets. Anna, Margot, Elspeth. Names that belong to someone somewhere, but here they are just whispers, half-remembered. The nuns move from bed to bed, tearing the tags away one by one. The paper shreds curl in their hands, drop to the floor, and left for the night wind to scatter. The girls stand by their beds, lips trembling beneath the cloth. Eyes dart from shadow to shadow, counting the nuns, counting the beds, counting the silence. You can almost hear the questions they want to ask, but can't. What will happen to us? Why are we here? Why can't we speak? Night falls heavy on the convent. Rain taps on the windows, sometimes pounding, sometimes only a whisper. The building creaks and groans, old wood settling, old stones remembering storms. Somewhere deep inside, a bell tolls, muffled and far away, as if the walls themselves are warning the living to keep out. At night, the girls glide through the halls. Their feet barely make a sound on the cold stone. They look like seaweed drifting in slow water, faces white, eyes empty. Sometimes they stop and stare into the dark, like they're searching for something lost. Sometimes they gather in small circles, holding hands, listening for footsteps. But always, the cloth stays tight across their mouths. Some girls wake from nightmares. You see them shivering, fists clenched in the dark. No one screams, no one calls for help. The fear is trapped inside, pressing hard against their lips, trying to break free. They learn to swallow their terror, to hide it deep, to move like ghosts between worlds. The nuns watch from the end of the hall, faces hidden beneath their veils. They carry candles that flicker and smoke, leaving thin trails in the air. Sometimes they whisper to each other, sometimes they just watch, eyes cold and patient, waiting for something no one else can see. In the morning, the girls line up for prayers, heads bowed, hands folded tight. Their voices are never heard. The nuns move among them, checking the cloth, tightening knots, making sure no sound escapes. Breakfast is silent, bread and broth eaten with eyes fixed on the table. No laughter, no weeping, only the soft clink of spoons and the heartbeat of fear. Outside, the world goes on. Rain falls, the wind howls, the sea crashes against the rocks. But inside St. Brigid's, silence rules. The girls write notes in the dust, letters that vanish before anyone can read them. They trace old names on the window glass, only to watch them melt away in the morning light. Sometimes, a new girl arrives, brought in by the nuns, her eyes wide, her steps slow. She joins the others, lips bound, voice stolen. Her bed is waiting, her name tag already pinned in place. Another secret, another story swallowed up by the quiet halls. If you walked the halls at midnight, would you hear them? The silent novices moving like shadows, wishing for a word, a song, a prayer. Would you dare to speak their names? Would you tear away the cloth and let their voices rise? 42 beds, 42 secrets, and a silence that grows heavier every night. If this silence unnerves you, tell us what you'd do if you found yourself in St. Brigid's after dark. Don't forget to subscribe for more chilling stories. Beneath the grey surface of the sea, where the salt eats away at stone and the sunlight struggles to break through, lies something few dare to see. The bell tower of St. Brigid's, half swallowed by the tides. It rises from the water at an angle, crooked, heavy with secrets. Moss drapes its old stones, fish dart through broken windows, and barnacles crust the walls. On most days, the tower looks empty, but at high tide, when the sea lifts itself just a little higher, the real story begins. No rope hangs from the tower, no bell clapper swings inside. The iron bell itself, heavy and black, is trapped under swirling green water. It should be silent. It should be still. But every high tide, something stirs. The villagers know it well. They've lived with it for generations, the way the morning mist thickens, the way their skin crawls when the sky turns blue-grey before dawn. It's always the same, a single, distant toll, muffled, wet, too deep to be wind, too cold to be thunder. It starts soft, just a shiver at the edge of hearing. Some claim the sound is only a trick of the waves, others know better. Each toll means something has changed. Each echo counts, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 42, each one rising through the sea, drifting across the sand, climbing the rocks, reaching the edge of the village where doors are locked and curtains are drawn tight. People wake before sunrise, hearts pounding, sweat cold on their foreheads. They cover their ears, press pillows against their heads, but nothing helps. The sound gets in. It rattles bones, prickles skin, makes dogs whimper and babies cry. No one wants to listen, no one wants to count. But they do, every single one. They say the bell counts the living and marks the lost. When the last echo fades, silence falls thick as fog. The sea pulls back. The tower leans, waiting for the next tide. And someone, always some, is missing. Maybe it's a fisherman who left for the early catch and never came back. Maybe a child wandering the dunes, shoes left behind. Maybe a novice girl, her bed empty, her name tag curling at the edge of her mattress. The missing are never found. No footprints, no splashes, no sign at all. only a pillow cold, a doorway left open, a jacket caught on a branch near the water. The villagers whisper. They keep lists in their heads, marking who has vanished and when. They leave flowers at the edge of the pier and at the bell tower's base when the tide is low. They hang wooden charms over their beds, cross themselves before sleep, mutter old prayers they barely remember. Yet nothing stops the toll. On stormy nights, the sound is worse. Lightning cracks over the ocean and the bell answers, louder, harsher, closer than before. Waves batter the shore, the old stones rattle, and everyone in Fog Harbour sits up, listening, counting, dreading the end of the song. The children are taught never to go near the tower at high tide, not for dares, not for secrets, not for anything. The older folks say the water remembers, that each echo is a name, a memory, a soul claimed by the sea. Sometimes, if you stand close, you can see faces in the water, pale, blurred, drifting past the bell, looking up as if they're waiting for someone to answer. No one answers. The nuns at St. Brigid's pray in their chapel, but even they pause when the bell rings. Candles gutter in the draughts. Shadows slip along the walls. The youngest novices clench their hands, cloth tight over their mouths, eyes squeezed shut. Some say they feel the toll in their chests, like a heartbeat that doesn't belong to them. A story drifts through the village, passed from mouth to mouth, never written down. Long ago, before the convent, before the bell tower, there was a storm that never ended. The sea rose and claimed the land, and something was left behind. An old bell, forged from stolen iron, hung without a clapper, waiting for the tide to ring it. It was said to be a warning, or a curse, or a door to somewhere colder. Nobody knows if that story is true. Nobody wants to. But the tower stands, half buried, half forgotten, and the bell rings on its own. The villagers dream of running, but the sea always brings them back. There's nowhere safer, nowhere further from the sound. They try to ignore the pull, the hush that falls over everything when the bell sings its lonely song. Sometimes a brave soul will try to reach the tower at low tide. They carry lanterns, wear boots, and tie ropes around their waists. They make it across slippery rocks, climb through weeds, reach the base, and look up at the broken stones. But no one ever climbs higher. No one touches the bell. They say it looks back at you, dark and hungry, waiting for you to lose your balance. No one stays long. They always leave something behind. A glove, a coin, a piece of themselves. In the village, the missing are remembered in different ways. Some families set an extra place at the table, hoping the lost will come home. Some keep a candle burning in the window. Some write the names on scraps of paper and slip them into cracks in the church walls, hoping God will keep them safe. But most just listen, waiting for the next high tide, hoping their own name isn't hidden in the echo. Why 42 tolls? Why that number? No more, no less. Some say it matches the beds in the convent. Some say it's the number of steps in the old tower counting down to the water's edge. Others think it's the years since the first vanishing, or the days left before the bell claims them all. No one knows for sure. Sometimes when the sun rises red and sick over the sea, you can see the bell tower's shadow stretched across the water, long and sharp. Birds won't land on it. Fish circle wide. The whole place smells of rust and salt and secrets. Villagers don't talk much about what they've seen, but everyone has a story. A time they thought they saw a figure in the mist, or heard a voice call from below the waves, or felt a cold hand brush their ankle as they waded near the shore. Some leave offerings on the sand, coins, bread, bits of ribbon. The tide takes them all. Every high tide, the toll returns. Every high tide, someone disappears. And the bell, silent for a moment, waits for its next chance. Would you count the echoes, knowing what comes next? Would you cover your ears, or would you listen, just to hear your own name in the song? Some say the bell is lonely, some say it's hungry, some say it's a warning no one can escape. What do you believe? If this bell tower haunts your thoughts, share your own ghost story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, because in Fog Harbor, the next echo could be for you. Inside the chapel, the air always feels cold, old, damp, heavy with secrets and something sweeter, like iron. When you step inside, it's hard to see at first. Shadows creep along the stone walls. The smell of wet earth hangs everywhere, like the whole room was buried long ago and only just dug up. Your eyes drift up. Light barely sneaks in through the broken windows. Stained glass, cracked and crooked in their iron frames. The colors are all wrong. They flicker from pale blue to sick yellow, and then, always, red. Deep red, like the last flash of sunset or something worse. These windows were installed in 1918. No one can forget that year, not here. The old artist from Halifax came to paint them by hand. Each window shows a different saint, halos shining, robes flowing. But look closer. Every saint is weeping. Thin red lines trail from their eyes, dripping down their faces. Some say it's just the glass, rust in the lead, paint faded by time. But most know better. When the sun rises, the windows burn. They bleed red light across the floor. It creeps over the altar, spills down the walls, slides between the cracks in the stone. The saints look alive for a moment. Their tears grow darker, thicker, almost moving. People who have seen it swear the color soaks right into your skin. In the morning, the crimson glow wakes the girls in their beds. The nuns say prayers, faces pale and eyes shut tight. The novices pull their blankets close. The older girls turn away from the light, but it always finds them. The red pools around their feet, spills over the pews, climbs up the wood as if it's alive. When it rains, the light shifts again. Shadows swim behind the glass. Sometimes you catch a face looking back, someone you shouldn't recognize. Sometimes you see hands pressed against the other side, palms smeared with red. No matter how many times the windows are scrubbed, the stains remain. The nuns whisper that it's a warning, a curse placed on the chapel to keep secrets in and sinners out. At sunset, the whole room glows. The windows flare, bathing everything in blood-colored light. Dust hangs thick in the air, turning pink, then scarlet. It stains the white altar cloths, the faces of the saints, the lips of those who kneel to pray. The girls say the light makes their skin itch, their mouths dry. Some cover their eyes, others stare, lost in the shifting colors, searching for a message hidden in the glow. Sometimes after dark, a thin stream of red leaks down the wall, below the biggest window. It pools in a crack in the floor, never spreading, never drying up. The nuns try to clean it, but it returns every morning, fresh, wet, shining in the first slant of sunlight. No one knows what it is. No one asks. The older villagers remember the day the windows arrived, how the horse-drawn cart rolled up the muddy road, how the crates were too heavy for 3 men to lift. The artist worked for weeks, locked inside, singing in a language no one knew. At night, strange lights flickered in the chapel. Some said the artist spoke to someone who wasn't there, arguing, pleading, laughing at nothing. When the windows were done, the artist vanished, left his brushes, his paints, even his coat behind. The nuns blessed the glass, sprinkled it with holy water, hung new crucifixes over every door. But the feeling stayed, the sense that something inside the chapel was watching, waiting. Now, every Sunday, the congregation gathers beneath the glass. Old women mutter prayers, fishermen cross themselves 3 times before sitting. The priest's voice echoes, trembling a little, as he reads from the pulpit. The red light flickers over the pages of his Bible, makes the black letters swim. Sometimes the words sound wrong, twisted, too sharp. No birds ever land on the chapel roof. No rain ever washes the stains away. The grass outside grows in strange shapes, as if something buried beneath is trying to push through. Some girls say they hear singing at night, voices weaving through the cracks, humming the tune the artist once sang. Once, a girl tried to break a piece of the red glass. She climbed onto the window ledge after dark, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. She tapped the glass with a stone, just once. The sound echoed through the chapel, louder than thunder. The stone cracked, but the glass did not. The next morning, the girl's hands were stained red, and she wouldn't speak for days. The nuns keep candles burning before each window, hoping the flames will purify the air. But the smoke always drifts to the glass, curling against the crimson saints, leaving black streaks on the faces. Each morning, the stains seem deeper, more alive, like wounds that will never heal. Why do the saints weep? Some say it's for the souls lost to the sea. Others say it's for the sins hidden within these walls. A few, braver than the rest, whisper that the saints know what's coming. Something dark, something no prayer can stop. No one knows what the artist meant to show. No one remembers his name. But everyone remembers the red light, the way it crawls across the floor, the way it clings to your shadow, the way it makes even the bravest heart skip. If you ever find yourself in St. Bridget's at sunset, watch the windows, count the saints, count the tears, and ask yourself, what happens when the last drop falls? If these bleeding windows chilled you, let us know in the comments and subscribe to hear what happens next. There's a place just beyond the convent walls where nothing grows the way it should. The sea wind is harsh and the ground is salted from storms. Grass fights to survive, wild roses bend toward the water, and the trees stay twisted, always leaning away from St. Bridget's. But in a hidden patch behind the chapel, Sister Adria keeps a garden no one dares to visit after dark. This isn't a place for daisies or lilies. Her garden is wild and tangled, thick with plants that don't belong to any book in the schoolroom. The air smells sharp and sweet, like rotting fruit and cold metal. Black flowers rise from the tangled roots, their petals shining as if they're wet, even in the hottest sun. No bees, no butterflies, only crows swoop down sometimes, pecking at seeds and hopping away fast, like they know better. Some say Sister Adria was never seen planting a angle seed. The flowers just appeared, one by one, creeping along the edge of the path, winding around stones, climbing over broken benches. The nuns leave her alone there. Even the bravest keep to the gravel walk and never look too closely at the leaves. If you stand at the garden gate, you might see footprints, small, bare feet pressed into the dark earth. They lead in, twisting among the thorns and moss, always ending at a single spot. One bloom, larger than the rest, hangs its head low and heavy. Sometimes it drips something red onto the ground, and nothing will grow where that stain lands. Children talk about the poison garden in whispers. They dare each other to sneak inside, to touch a leaf, to pick a petal. They say if you breathe too deep there, you forget the way home. Some girls come back with blank eyes, walking slow, barely blinking. They sit on the edge of their beds at night, lips moving in prayers no one taught them. One boy, a cook's son from the village, was braver than most. He laughed at the warnings, swung his cleaver in the air, said he'd bring back the biggest black flower to prove he wasn't afraid. He walked into the garden alone, whistling, the blade bouncing against his side. Hours passed. The sun slipped away. No one saw him return. When the search began, the garden felt colder. Sister Adria stood at the center, black veil pulled tight, hands stained green and red. The boy's cleaver rested on the stone bench beside her, polished and clean. Not a speck of dirt or blood on the blade. She smiled and said nothing, only pointed to the empty space among the flowers where the largest bloom now drooped, wilted and grey. No one dared ask her what had happened. The boy was never seen again. His mother wept in the chapel for weeks, her voice ragged, her prayers unanswered. Sometimes, late at night, the girls said they heard a blade scraping along the stone, a low humming that sounded like his favourite song. The poison garden grew wilder after that. Black flowers climbed the fence, roots broke through the chapel stones, vines curled around the iron gate, birds fell silent as they flew overhead, and the crows never came back. Sister Adria wandered the paths, her face lost in shadows, her eyes dark and bright at once. She spoke to her plants in words no one understood, sometimes singing, sometimes just whispering names. Some girls swore she fed the garden with more than just water. They said she buried secrets in the earth, whispered confessions to the roots, poured old sins into the ground where nothing but poison could survive. No plant ever grew outside her garden. No wildflower, no weed. The ground beyond the fence stayed empty, as if the garden took all the life for itself and left nothing behind. When the wind blew from the sea, the scent of the flowers filled the air, rich, choking, sweet as honey, and bitter as old medicine. The nuns locked the windows tight and burned herbs inside, but the smell crept in anyway. It clung to their hair, their clothes, their prayers. On moonless nights, the garden glowed. The black petals shimmered in the dark, light rippling along the veins. Sometimes a child would stand at the fence, eyes wide, hands gripping the bars. Sister Adria would find them in the morning, faces pale, minds empty of dreams. No one knew where she came from, no one remembered her family. The records from her convent in France were burned in a fire, the pages lost to smoke and memory. She arrived with a single bag, a bundle of seeds, and a silver cross with no name carved. Into the back. She never spoke of her past. The other nuns gave her the garden, and she made it her own. Now her legend is part of the convent. The girls learn quickly. Don't follow the footprints, don't talk to the flowers, don't touch the cleaver if you find it gleaming in the sun. If Sister Adria calls you into the garden, run the other way. Some things in Fog Harbor are worse than ghosts. Some things live in sunlight, in soil, in the hands of those who never pray out loud. If the poison garden haunts your thoughts, tell us what you'd risk for the truth, and subscribe for the next deadly secret. The moon rises over Fog Harbor, round and swollen, bathing everything in silver. The sea glows with ghost light, waves moving slow and heavy. The wind feels sharp enough to cut, carrying the smell of salt and secrets to every door. It's the first full moon since the sisters arrived. The village barely sleeps. People close shutters, snuff out lamps, but they can't look away. Windows fill with watching eyes, men, women, even children peeking through cracks in the curtains. Some press crosses to their lips, some grip hands tight, not sure if they're hoping for mercy or a sign to run. Down by the water, the convent doors open. Wood creaks. Shadows move across the stone steps, long and strange in the moonlight. 12 nuns appear, dressed in habits as dark as midnight, faces covered in pale veils. Their feet make no sound on the path, as if the earth itself won't dare remember them. Each one carries a basket, lids closed, shapes hidden beneath heavy cloth. The line moves single file, slow and steady, following the old coastal road. Lanterns swing in the windows as they pass. The glow flickers across their veils, but no face ever turns to look back. The baskets swing from thin arms, bumping gently, making a rhythm you could almost call a song, if you wanted to call it anything at all. Not one villager moves, no one speaks. Dogs whine and crawl under tables. The air grows thick like the whole village is holding its breath, counting the steps of the silent procession. 1, 2, 3. 12 nuns, 12 baskets, 12 secrets marching toward the unknown. Who would dare follow them? Not the priest, who blesses himself 3 times and locks his door. Not the fisherman, who claims he once saw a nun's eyes gleam red when the moon hit just right. Not the children, who whisper stories of witches and ghosts, but know better than to step outside tonight. The nuns move through pools of moonlight, baskets swinging, veils fluttering in the cold breeze. Their path winds along the cliff, above rocks sharp as broken teeth. Some villagers swear the sisters never walk around puddles or stones, just glide straight through, as if nothing on earth can touch them. Halfway up the hill, the lanterns in the village dim. A cloud passes over the moon, but the nuns don't pause, don't look up, don't slow down. They reach the old iron gate of St. Brigid's, a place even braver souls avoid after dark. Here, their footprints vanish, swallowed by shadow, erased before anyone can follow. The baskets disappear behind the convent wall. What was inside? What secret burden weighed so heavy in those baskets, wrapped tight, never shown, never spoken of again? The villagers spend the whole night wondering. Some think of food, bread, fruit, maybe gifts for the hungry. Some think of bones, old relics, or the remains of those who never made it off the ship. The wildest among them whisper of darker things, living things, writhing things, cries smothered under heavy cloth. But when dawn arrives, the baskets return, empty. They hang in a row on the convent fence, lids thrown back, nothing inside but a trace of salt and a strange black stain, dried and crusted at the bottom. The nuns say, nothing, not a word, not a glance. By midday, the baskets are gone. Only the villagers remember the way they glowed in the moonlight, swinging like pendulums, counting down to something no one dares name. All day, the village feels unsettled. Horses refuse to work, chickens won't lay, the air tastes metallic, as if the earth itself has bled. The children don't play near the cliffs. The bravest boy, who once taunted the nuns, wakes screaming from dreams he can't explain. Dogs bark at empty corners, even the sea sounds wrong, quieter, colder, deeper. Some villagers gather at the chapel, whispering questions they never asked before. What did the nuns bring to this place? Why march by moonlight in silence, carrying burdens only they can see? What happens behind those stone walls, away from the eyes of the living? No answers come. The nuns pray as always, voices low and smooth, hands folded tight. The church bells ring at sunset, echoing across the water, but the sound is hollow, as if something underneath is waiting to ring louder. Weeks pass, and the story of the procession becomes a warning. Children are told to keep their windows shut on moonlit nights. Lovers leave flowers by the convent gate, hoping the sisters will bless them, or at least leave them alone. Fishermen spit in the sea before casting their nets. The baskets are never seen again. But every full moon people watch the road. Some claim to hear footsteps in the fog or see veils drifting by the shore. Some say they glimpse the outline of a nun, basket swinging at her side, head bent in silent prayer. Most refuse to speak of it at all. What was in those baskets? What would you do if you saw 12 nuns walking by the light of the full moon, faces hidden, arms burdened with secrets? Would you follow them? Would you hide? Would you pray for morning to come? In Fog Harbor, questions are sometimes more dangerous than answers. If the midnight procession chilled you, tell us your wildest theory in the comments and subscribe for the next shadow that moves through the mist. Beneath St. Bridget's, where the earth is cold and the stone sweats with old secrets, lies a crypt that almost no one has seen. Few speak of it, and fewer still know how to find its narrow stair, hidden behind a door most would swear was just part of the wall. But those who do find it, by chance or by curse, will remember what waits in the dark. The walls down here are rough, carved by hand 100 years ago, before the first bell rang from the drowned tower. Candles flicker in iron cages. The shadows on the walls move with you, stretching long and thin, like the arms of lost souls reaching for someone to join them. In the deepest part of the crypt sits a reliquary. An ancient stone chest, carved with crosses and twisting vines, sealed tight by 12 heavy locks. Each lock is different, each one carved with its own sign. A flower, a skull, a wave, a flame. People wonder what the signs mean, but no one has ever dared ask, not while Sister Helena is still alive. Sister Helena keeps the keys. She wears them on a chain under her habit, each key cold and silent, waiting to be turned. She never lets the keys leave her side, never lets anyone watch as she moves through the shadows toward the reliquary. Some nuns say they've heard the locks turning in the night, one after another, the sound echoing up the stairwell like a slow, patient countdown. 1 lock, 2 locks, all the way to 12. No one else is ever there. Sometimes, Sister Helena stands for hours in the crypt, her head bowed, lips moving in silent prayer. Sometimes, she just stands and listens. There are stories about her, even among the other sisters. Some say she was the first to arrive at St. Bridget's, years before the other nuns, before the orphans, before the poison garden and the drowned bell. Some say she never sleeps, that she doesn't age, that she's waiting for something or someone to finish. When she finally opens the reliquary, the air grows thick, smelling of dust and old blood. The stone lid slides back, and inside are 42 small vials. Each vial is perfectly clear, sealed tight, not a drop spilled. There are no labels, no names, no dates, no hint of what's inside. Only one word is scratched into the glass, neat and deep. Finished. Every vial bears the same mark. Finished. No one knows what the vials hold. Some look cloudy, some are dark, almost black. Others shimmer red or purple or green when the candlelight hits them just right. Some say the colors shift if you look too long. Some say if you listen close, you can hear something moving inside, like breath trapped in glass. Why 42? The same number as the beds upstairs, the same number as the echoes from the bell, the same number of footprints that wandered into the poison garden, or names once pinned above the beds, now ripped away. Some believe the vials are souls, collected and counted, sealed for all time by Sister Helena's hand. Others say they're tears, bottled at the last moment as each orphan lost her voice and vanished from the convent halls. A few whisper that the vials are filled with something far worse, memories or curses, or the last desperate prayers of those who didn't survive what happened in St. Bridget's. No one dares ask what was finished. On rare nights, when the moon is high and the sea is restless, Sister Helena brings the 12 keys to the crypt and unlocks the reliquary, one lock at a time. She runs her finger along each vial, lips moving, counting, always ending at 42. Finished, finished, finished. When she's done, she locks the chest again. The keys disappear beneath her habit. She climbs the stairs, leaving the crypt as silent and cold as before. Sometimes the sisters find her standing at the chapel window at dawn, watching the light struggle through the stained glass, eyes fixed on nothing. No one ever speaks of the reliquary above ground. No one asks Sister Helena why she guards it so closely, or what she's waiting for, or what will happen when the last vial is filled. But everyone knows to stay away from the crypt. The orphans shiver when they hear footsteps beneath the floor. The nuns cross themselves when they pass the hidden door. Even the oldest villagers warn their children, never follow a nun who carries keys, and never ever ask what lies beneath St. Bridget's. What does it mean to be finished? What would you find if you opened a vial in the dark? Would it be your soul, your memories, or something far colder, something that has no name? What was done and why? Who counted and who was counted? If you were Sister Helena, would you ever sleep again? If the locked reliquary keeps you up at night, share your theory below and subscribe before the next secret is sealed forever. In Fog Harbour, everyone remembers Father McLennan. He came to St. Bridget's with a strong voice and steady hands, a man built for storms, not shadows. He walked with a purpose, boots thudding on stone, black coat flapping behind him. He wasn't afraid of the sea, the wind, or the stories whispered by children in the alleys. He believed in answers, and he never stopped asking questions. His study was a small, square room lit by a single lantern. Books lined the walls, all leather and dust, and on his desk, a heavy journal always lay open. He wrote every night, pressing each word deep into the page, as if he could pin the truth down with his pen. Rosaries hung over his chair, a silver crucifix glinting above the door. When the moon was full, his shadow fell across the floor like a warning to any darkness creeping close. But trouble was already here. Father McLennan first noticed it when the chapel bells rang at odd hours, echoing through stone and bone. He heard voices, soft, urgent, never quite clear. Sometimes the voices whispered prayers in Latin, sometimes they begged for help in the cries of children lost at sea. He felt watched, eyes burning from corners where candlelight wouldn't reach. He kept notes. He wrote about the midnight procession, the empty baskets, the sisters who never met his gaze. He wrote about the reliquary, the vials marked finished, the cold crypt where Sister Helena moved like a shadow in a shroud. He wrote about Sister Adria's poison garden, the black flowers that grew where nothing else dared. But what truly haunted him was the bell. He couldn't understand why it tolled. He couldn't sleep when the sound seeped through the stones and settled on his skin. One night, driven by a hunger for truth, Father McLennan left his study and marched down the empty halls, leather journal tucked under one arm, rosary wrapped twice around his fist. He banged on the chapel door, shouting for answers, voice booming in the night. His crucifix swung loose, striking the wood with each demand. The nuns didn't come. The orphans hid under their blankets. Only the wind answered him, carrying his words out to sea. He stormed back to his desk, hands shaking. He scrawled a new line in his journal, ink smearing on damp pages. "They're hiding something," he wrote. "The bell, the sisters, the children, all connected, all drowning together." The next day he tried to ring the bell himself. He climbed the broken stairs, forced open the rusted door. The bell was heavier than he'd imagined, cold iron slick with sea mist. He pulled the rope with both hands. The sound that followed was deep, raw, nothing like the calls to prayer he'd known before. The air shivered, the light flickered. He felt the ground shift under his boots. He rang the bell once, only once. That night, the journal's pages were found soaked through with water, even though the roof hadn't leaked and the windows were closed. Rosaries lay scattered across the floor, the crucifix broken in two, the lantern guttered out. A chill lingered that never quite faded. Father McLennan was gone. People searched. They combed the shoreline, swept the chapel, called his name into the garden and down the crypt stairs. His coat was found caught on a thorn at the edge of Sister Adria's plot. His boots stood by the altar, dry as bone. The nuns offered prayers, but no explanations. The last thing anyone found was his journal, left open to a page where the ink bled in long, twisted lines. The words there were shaky, barely legible, as if written underwater or by hands colder than stone. They whispered to me beneath the waves. That was all. The village mourned. Some called him brave, others called him foolish. The priests who came after never stayed long. They kept to daylight, locked their doors, never tried to ring the bell. His empty study became a place no one entered, dust gathering on the desk, the broken crucifix hidden in a drawer. His name faded from prayers, replaced by softer, safer saints. But his story lingered. Some say if you walk the chapel halls late at night you can hear Father McLennan still, his boots on the stone, his voice tangled in the wind, begging for answers the sisters will never give. Some say the bell tolls lower now, deeper, as if it's dragging something heavy through the water. Others whisper that when the lantern light flickers in his study, it's not the wind that moves it, but something lost, searching for the truth it never found. The children ask, "What did he hear?" The old folks shake their heads and say, "Best not to ask. The sea keeps its secrets, the nuns keep theirs, and in the chapel, the pond, shadows never move quite right." One bell, one vanished man, one last warning scribbled in a hand that trembled with fear. Would you have rung the bell? Would you have demanded the truth, knowing what waited below? If Father McLennan's fate chills you, leave your own theory in the comments and subscribe before the next secret drags you under. The clock in Fog Harbour's town office moves slow after midnight. Outside, the streets are empty, washed clean by moonlight and sea mist. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of old paper and spilled ink. Lanterns burn low, throwing long shadows across the walls, lined with shelves and records, secrets written down and locked away. The town clerk works late, as he always does when something feels wrong. His desk is covered in receipts and birth records, marriage certificates, faded maps with the edges curled like burned bread. But tonight, his hands reach for a single, heavy book, the town ledger. Brown leather, thick as a brick, the corners worn smooth by years of searching and counting. He pulls the ledger down with a grunt, the chain on his lamp rattling in the quiet. The book lands with a thud that seems to echo up the stairs and out the open window. For a moment, the clerk just stares, fingers tracing the gold letters on the cover. His hand shakes, but he opens to the marked page. He's seen this before, 42 lines, all written in the same careful script, like a curse written over and over. Each entry reads, "Collected, confirmed, no trace." The lines blur together, but the numbers don't lie. 42. He counts them again just to be sure. 1, 2, all the way to 42. It matches the beds in St. Bridget's, the number of orphans the town sent up the hill. But only 12 sisters ever arrived. 42 orphans, 12 sisters, 42 entries in the ledger. No names, no faces, only the same 3 words. Riantoan, repeated like a nursery rhyme, twisted for ghosts. He flips back through older pages, searching for mistakes, hoping for a different story. But every year, every line, every shipment of flour or box of candles, every missing child leads back to the same cold count. Collected, confirmed, no trace. His hand trembles as he sets the page flat. The ink smears under his thumb. He remembers the day each girl left the office, lips sealed, eyes down, the nuns waiting in black at the edge of the square. No one spoke. No one asked why the children never came back for holidays or letters. He stands to check the window. The street is silent, but the fog rolls thick and quick, swallowing the lamplight. He thinks he sees a figure down by the old pier, a woman in black, watching the office with a face as pale as moonlight. He turns away fast, heart beating hard in his throat. The clerk sits again, rubbing his eyes, staring at the page. Why 42? Why no names? Why did no one ever question the ledger? He writes a note to himself, just one word. Why? He tries to tell himself it's just numbers, that he didn't make the rules, only wrote them down, that the ledger is the town's memory, not his own. But he can't shake the feeling that the book is heavier now, that the pages want to close, that something has been watching him count all along. On a night like this, with the fog pressed against the glass, the office grows colder. The lantern gutters low, the shadows move behind him. He thinks of the clerk before him, old Mr. Dunnett, who vanished one spring with nothing but a coat left on his chair. He wonders if he'll end the same way. He tries to close the ledger, but the cover sticks. For a moment, he thinks he hears a whisper in the hall, a girl's voice, soft as wind through broken glass. Collected, confirmed, no trace. He snaps the book shut, breath coming fast. The street outside is empty now, no footsteps, no echo. The LED jar feels hot in his hands. He locks it back on the shelf, but the key breaks in the lock. He leaves the office lights burning, rushes into the night. The fog swallows him whole. Days pass. The townspeople wonder where he's gone. No one answers the door. No one checks the office. Only the ledger remains, pages shaking when the wind blows, ink smudged where his hand once rested. In time, a new clerk arrives. He finds the book, opens to the marked page, reads the 42 lines. Collected, confirmed, no trace. He wonders who wrote them, why there are no names, why the numbers never change. He never asks. The townspeople whisper about a curse. They lock their doors a little earlier, tuck their children in with prayers for the lost. The new clerk never counts out loud. He leaves the ledger open on the shelf just in case the ghosts need to check their own names. 42, 42, over and over. The number echoes in the mind, impossible to forget. Some say if you listen in the office at night, you can hear the clerk counting under his breath. Others say if you touch the ledger, your hand will shake for days, your dreams filled with empty beds and silent halls. Collected, confirmed, no trace. Would you write your name in the book? Would you count the missing or close your eyes and hope the numbers never find you? If the town ledger made your skin crawl, tell us what you'd do with its secrets, and subscribe before your own story is written in the dark. The tide pulls away from the rocky shore, leaving the world in hush and blue shadow. The air grows colder, salt biting at your skin. Out past the last seaweed line, 42 stones lay pressed into the sand. Flat, grey, each one shaped by a human hand. They form a perfect spiral stretching from the edge of the tide inward, never breaking, never out of place. People say you can see the pattern best at twilight. The stones catch the light, glowing pale against dark sand, each one pointing to the next. From above it looks almost alive, a spiral coiled like a sleeping serpent, or the curve of a seashell twisted tight with secrets. No one remembers who first laid the stones, only that the pattern's been there as long as anyone can remember. Some say the sisters brought the stones from the hills, rolling them down one by one. Others claim the orphans dragged them from the garden, hands scratched raw, following orders whispered in the dark. No matter who tells the story, it always ends the same way, 42 stones, always 42. Children dare each other to run the spiral at dusk. They tiptoe from stone to stone, counting each step, holding their breath. If they reach the center, they say you'll hear the bell toll under the waves. If you break the pattern, the sea will swallow you before morning. Most don't make it past 20, feet stumbling, hearts pounding, shadows crawling longer by the minute. The villagers never walk the shore after sunset. They glance at the stones through shuttered windows, crossing themselves when the wind whistles through the cracks. Some nights the spiral seems to shift, stones moving closer to the village as if the sea is dragging them toward the houses, one slow inch at a time. Last summer, a geologist came from Halifax, drawn by rumors of the spiral. He was a quiet man, always taking notes, pockets stuffed with shells and measuring tape. He spent long hours on his knees, brushing sand from each stone, tracing the spiral's line with careful fingers. He told anyone who would listen that the pattern wasn't random. It was a code, a deadly code, genius in its design. He said it matched the Fibonacci sequence, a spiral seen in the shape of galaxies and sunflower heads, a pattern older than the Convent, older than the sea itself. He drew charts in his notebook, lines crisscrossing, numbers spinning out to the edges of the page. He said, "Someone made this on purpose. Someone knew what they were doing." Villagers warned him to leave it alone. They told him about the orphans, the sisters, the bell that rings with no hand to pull the rope. He laughed, shaking his head, more curious than afraid. He said math was the only magic left in the world. One night, as the tide rose and the fog rolled in thick as soup, the geologist packed up his notes and walked back to his cottage on the cliff. Lantern light bobbed through the darkness. The spiral glowed in the moonlight, perfect as ever. That was the last anyone saw of him. Before dawn, flames tore through his cottage, swallowing everything in a rush of smoke and sparks. The fire burned too hot, too fast. By sunrise, nothing was left but blackened stone and twisted metal. The geologist was gone, his notebooks ash, his secrets erased by fire. Some say it was an accident, a lamp knocked over, a gust of wind through an open window. Others whisper that something followed him from the spiral, something that did not want its code revealed. A few villagers swear they saw footprints in the sand that morning, leading from the center of the spiral straight to the cottage door. The stones are still there. No one moves them, not even the bravest child. Some are chipped, some cracked, but none have left the circle. The spiral is whole, always waiting, always counting. What does the code mean? Some say it's a map, a path to something buried beneath the shore, a treasure or a curse. Others think the spiral is a warning, a lock to hold something in, not out. The sisters say nothing. The orphans never go near the water. If you listen close, when the wind dies and the waves hush, you might hear the stones shift, grinding against each other, counting out the spiral's deadly logic. Would you step into the spiral, knowing what it cost the last man who tried? Would you break the pattern, risk the tide, search for the truth hidden in numbers and stone? Or would you keep your distance, watching from behind locked doors, waiting for the sea to wash it all away? In Fog Harbour, Math and magic run side by side. Some secrets are meant to be solved, others burn the hands that try. If this circle of stones made you shiver, tell us your wildest theory below, and subscribe before the next pattern appears. Deep in the provincial archives, where dust hangs thick and every footstep echoes, there's a locked room where the light always seems a little too yellow, a little too tired. The walls are lined with shelves of old boxes, brittle paper, and metal tins that no one's opened in years. Files of stories almost forgotten, cases left unsolved, all the secrets too dangerous for daylight. At the far end of the room sits a reel-to-reel tape recorder, grey and dented, its wheels stiff with age. It's tagged with a date no one remembers, initials that match no living clerk. Most people walk right by, but every few years, some new technician gets curious and tries to play what's on that last reel. The tape whirs, stutters, lets out a hiss like wind scraping over bone. Static fills the room, a low, sick pulse in the air. Voices fade in and out, almost words, almost singing, the sound of prayers trapped in water. You lean close, holding your breath, trying to catch a single name, a single reason why this recording exists at all. Then, just at the end, 10 seconds before the tape stops, a whisper breaks through. Calm, steady, a woman's voice, Sister Agnes. There's no doubt, though no one alive has ever heard her speak before. Her words move slow, like a tide pulling out to sea. Speak, and the ocean returns you whole. The room chills. Your hands go cold, heart thudding as if you've been called by name. A spark jumps from the tape machine, tiny blue flash, sharp as a slap. The wheels seize, the motor dies, the smell of burnt wires and dust fills the archive. That's all. No more tape, no more words. The reel sits silent, refusing to play again, no matter how many times someone rewinds or resets. That's all that survives. A final warning, or a threat. Archivists and police, historians and priests, all have tried to study the tape, to analyze the voice. Some tried to clean the recording, strip out the static, find a secret message hidden in the hiss. But each attempt ends the same way. Silence, a broken machine, and a sense that something cold has brushed past you in the shadows. Rumors spread quickly. Some say Sister Agnes's voice is a curse, a promise kept for 100 years. Others say the tape is a test, daring the curious to break the convent's law of silence. There are stories, always stories, of researchers who played the tape late at night and didn't come home in the morning. Their notes left behind, their desks coated with sea salt, their shoes still damp as if they'd walked out into the bay. No one agrees on what "the ocean returns you whole" means. Some claim it's an old blessing, the idea that confession or courage will set you free. Others whisper it's a warning, that anyone who dares to speak out, to reveal the truth behind the missing girls, the vanished sisters, the blood-stained portraits, will be swept away and lost forever. A few people, braver or more foolish than the rest, tried to record over the tape. They pressed the red button, said their own names, tried to leave a message for the next generation. But the machine always broke. The tapes melted or snapped. And if you listened very, very closely to what was left, sometimes the only voice you'd hear was Sister Agnes, whispering through static, drowning out every other word. The tape stays in the archive, locked in a metal box, warnings taped across the lid. Do not play, do not copy. But sometimes, late at night, the new technician will hear a faint whirring from inside the box, a click, a hiss, as if the tape is playing itself in the dark. Why did she leave that message? Why whisper a threat instead of a prayer? Why trust her last words to a dying machine instead of to a soul who might carry her secrets in silence? Maybe she wanted to remind everyone that silence is power, that in Fog Harbor the sea takes back what should never have been spoken, that every secret told, every name uttered, every story confessed has a price. Would you dare to speak, knowing what it might cost? Would you risk calling out the truth, hoping the ocean brings you back, or would you keep your voice sealed, safe in the dark? The reel-to-reel will never play again. The tape is finished. But the whisper hangs in the archive, in the hallways, in the crashing waves outside. Speak, and the ocean returns you whole. If Sister Agnes's final warning made your blood run cold, tell us what you think she meant, and subscribe before the last secret sinks beneath the tide. A hush so deep it presses against your chest. You wait, holding your breath, eyes straining for any hint of light. Then, slow as a heartbeat, white numbers appear in the dark. Missing 42. Found Uro. You feel it before you hear it, a distant, drowned bell toll echoing through water, heavy and slow. Ow, carrying sorrow across the years. Each note rolls out, fading into nothing, leaving the world even emptier than before. 12 sisters stepped onto the pier in Fog Harbor. No luggage, no words, only secrets clutched tight behind black veils. They marched into the night and were never the same again. 42 orphans filled the beds of St. Bridget's, each mouth bound silent, each pair of eyes flickering with questions they were never allowed to ask. Some glided through halls like ghosts, some left footprints in the poison garden, some vanished into the spiral on the shore. The bell tolled 42 times. Each echo drifted across the village, slipped beneath doors, wormed into dreams. Each echo was a warning. Each echo was a name. But no one was ever found. Priests demanded answers and disappeared. Clerks counted 42 entries, collected, confirmed, no trace, and then were gone themselves. Scientists tried to lift the veil of blood from the portraits, but the fire erased their evidence. Geologists studied the spiral of stones and were swallowed by flames. Even the police, with their crowbars and lanterns, found nothing but a warm veil and a message carved in plaster. You cannot bury what still breathes. One by one, every answer burned away, choked by fog, drowned by the tide, buried under centuries of silence. What really happened inside the submerged convent? Was it a curse that stalked the halls, or something born from the hands of those sworn to protect the innocent? Was it math and magic twisted together, ritual and accident, prayer and threat? Was it just the sea itself, hungry for more than ships and storms? Or was it a secret kept by 12 sisters, one so terrible that only blood, silence and fire could keep it from breaking free? The reliquary still waits, sealed behind 12 locks, 42 vials marked "finished." It sits below St. Bridget's, holding back something no one dares to name. Sister Helena's keys have never left her side. The nuns pray, the orphans dream, the town looks away. Should we open it? Should we unseal what was meant to stay hidden, risk waking what still breathes beneath the stone? The last whisper remains, speak, and the ocean returns you whole. You have heard the stories, you have counted the missing, you have felt the chill of every closed door and unanswered question. Now the darkness belongs to you. The reliquary remains, waiting for a single word, one decision that could break the silence forever. Type "unseal" if you dare. Would you face what comes out of the dark, or would you let the secrets rest where even the sea fears to go? Let us know in the comments what you believe happened to the lost of Fog Harbor. Subscribe and be ready, because the next toll might be for you.